construction meeting. My name is Alan Van, and I am the Public Information Manager for the Skanska team. I will be kicking us off today before we dive into some construction updates for you folks. Next slide, please. Here in the room with us, the virtual room, we have myself, Alan Van, along with Robin Clark, the Skanska Community Liaison. We have a couple of other Skanska folks as well. Carmelo Chavez, you might be hearing from him a little bit, and we also have several folks from WashDOT here available to answer any questions you may have as well. As a reminder, the meeting is scheduled to go to 1 p.m., though we may finish a couple minutes early. Ideally, we leave about 10 to 15 minutes for Q&A at the very end. If you do have any questions that come up after the meeting is over, feel free to send us an email at sr520bridge@washdot.wa.gov, or feel free to give us a call to our 24/7 construction hotline. As a reminder, as I mentioned earlier, we do have a recording of we will have a recording of today's meeting posted on our construction corner. And we'll also be sharing updates via our email updates as well. So make sure that you scan that QR code and it will bring you to a link to sign up for our email updates. If we do end up going ahead of schedule and we don't have any questions left in our queue, we'll go ahead and give you some time back in your afternoon and end the meeting early. But as always, if any additional questions come up, don't hesitate to send those to us. Next slide, please. In addition to the Skanska and WashDOT team, we also have a representative from Graham here in case anybody has any questions about the Montlake project. The Montlake project, if you have any questions that come up after today's meeting, send those questions over to the same email address, sr520bridge@washdot.wa.gov, and a member of their outreach team will get to you. With that, we can go to the next slide. I just have a couple of reminders for how to participate in today's webinar. I do see quite a few new faces at our meeting today. So we do things just a little bit differently with how we allow folks to participate in today's webinar. We have a bar at the bottom of your screen where we have a Q&A window where we request everybody submit all of their questions or comments through the Q&A box. As a reminder, all of the questions or all of the text that's submitted in the Q&A box is visible to all participants. Make sure that you're not putting any information that you don't want public in the Q&A box. If you have any difficulties using the Q&A function or have any questions about Zoom or other technical difficulties, feel free to give a call to our 24/7 hotline, which we have information later on for how to contact us. Next slide, please. And then just a brief overview of the agenda before I pass it over to my colleague, Robin. For today's meeting, we will be talking about some pile driving updates, our current and ongoing construction activities, some ongoing nighttime construction, a short-term look ahead for the next 2 months, and then a long-term look ahead for 2025. I'll also share some information and some additional resources for how to stay informed and how to contact the team. And then we'll go into the formal Q&A session. As questions are submitted in the Q&A, we may be responding to them via chat, but for the most part, we will be holding off on responding until the very end of the meeting after we go through the entire presentation. With that, I think I'll go ahead and pass it over to Robin.
All righty. Thank you, Alan, and hello, everybody. For those of you that are new here, I'm Robin Clark. I'm one of the project team members here on the 520 Portage Bay and Roanoke lid replacement project. We are getting started here. For those of you that are new, this is our project map of the overall scope of work, what we're putting in place of the existing 520 bridge. We're going to be building 2 new bridges through the current alignment of the SR 520 highway. We're also going to be connecting what you see is the new Roanoke lid, putting together those 2 neighborhoods on the north and south side of 520. and those are going to be between 10th and Del Mar. We have a couple bike connections and pedestrian connections that we'll also be constructing across the project. And we'll get into some of our project details and our schedule here throughout the presentation. So just taking a look at our overall project schedule, these are some highlights of our overall activities. We're currently in the early stages of 2025 activities, which are focused on the North Portage Bay Bridge construction. What that includes is some of our work bridge construction, and you'll see at the bottom of the schedule that includes our in-water pile driving seasons. Those work bridges, which I'll talk more about here in a minute, allow us to access the construction elements for those north and south bridges, as well as the removal of the existing bridge. All right, jumping into some pile driving updates. So pile driving progress, we have our two work bridges. And again, for folks that are new here, we have two work bridges that we've been constructing for this in-water work season that started back in the fall of 2024, and that will be ending at the end of this month. These work bridges are going to allow us to access the elements of the new Portage Bay Bridge north and south to build out the foundations and the bridge deck that eventually folks will be driving on. So for these work bridges, we have to install the foundations and decks or tops of these work bridges throughout this in-water work season, and that includes pile driving. So for the latest pile driving update, we're continuing to install our goals of between 2 and 8 piles per day, excuse me. The progress is shown on the map below. We have quite a bit of progress since our last monthly update, which is really exciting news for us. And we are very close to reaching our goal of installing over 300 piles for this first season. Many folks in the neighborhood will probably have seen this slide in the form of either an email or a flyer that came out recently. We've made a pretty important change that we want to make sure you guys are aware of as far as our construction schedule. And I'll pass it to my colleague here in a minute to talk a little more on details. But the overall highlight is that our in-water pile driving season for impact pile driving ends on April 30th. In order to meet our deadlines for this in-water work and make sure that we get all of the necessary work installed, we're extending our work window from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., where it was previously in that window of 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. We received an approved noise variance from the city of Seattle to do this, and we are not anticipating any changes to our weekend or holiday schedules through the rest of this month. So I'll pass it over to my colleague Carmelo here for a little bit more information on why we're doing that. And then we'll pause here if there's any questions just on the pile driving aspect of the updates.
Thanks, Robin. Yeah, like Robin mentioned, we're driving hard on the southeast portion of the workbridge area in regards to temporary bridge 1, which is that right adjacent to the current eastbound off-ramp at Montlake. That's where we're installing those piles currently. If you drive by the project, you can see what folks are calling now the Iron Forest. We have 67 piles to install by April 30th. At the moment, we have 33. As of last night, we have 33 of those 67 piles installed. So we still have a ways to go to get to the completion date of the 67 needed by April 30th. And the reason for this TNV is to allow us just to extend those hours a little bit in the evenings to allow us to get the pile vibrated in place and impacted as needed in order to not jeopardize our schedule. And just in the why, and I've been taught in my career a little bit that less is more, but in a circumstance like this, I want to make sure we're clear, that I am clear about explaining the why we're here and what this does for the project as a whole and the community. And by extending these working windows or these working hours currently, it'll allow us to finish those 67 pile needed on that southeast portion of the work bridge in order to ensure we don't impact further delays into the project schedule, which means impacts to future fish windows potentially, which therefore goes back to more disturbances, more impacts to the community, and we're trying to avoid that and keep our project on pace. And I just isolate it to this area for temporary bridge one. And the reason, if anybody's asked, well, why are we here? That's not really our problem. The issue is that the schedule, the design, it takes a lot to make these things happen and make the field work happen. And being a design build project, we need to make sure the design is solidified, it's validated. Once that is done, then we go and install that work. Here, unfortunately, the design for the temporary bridge pushed a little bit, and that's what is making us react accordingly. And unfortunately, we're hopefully not impacting the community too much, but that is the why we're here and how we're going to mitigate that on the project. So with that, any questions that we can take live?
Yeah, we'll take a pause here, and Alan, maybe you can check the Q&A to see if there's any questions specific to pile driving before we keep going. And thank you, Carmela.
Yeah, thank you, Robin. Thank you, Carmelo. We currently do not have any questions in the queue. I will pause for an additional 30 seconds or so to allow folks to type out their questions. As a reminder, we do have a formal Q&A session at the end of the presentation as well. So if folks need a little bit more time to formulate their questions or questions come up as we are going through the presentation, feel free to submit those and we'll be able to address those at the end as well.
And while people think about questions, Alan, and Robin, I spoke about temporary bridge 1 through April 30th, but I just want to be very clear and transparent with the community that excuse me, we are gonna continue pile work outside of the fish window for the upland work on that southeast front going up what is that next to the southeast corner in lines with temporary bridge on that southeast corner of the bay. We're going to continue to drive pile upland after, say, May 1st on, but it's going to be normal daytime hours. We're not going to do weekends. And we're also going to continue to do in-water work, vibrating pile only in the bay, normal hours Monday through Friday, and only one shift is what we're targeting at the moment. Hey, Dave.
So maybe you could, Robin, you could go back to that graphic, and Carmel could maybe kind of point out those areas in particular, just so that people can kind of get a frame of reference of where the activities are.
I say we go back one more slide to the beginning, job overview. I think that one shows it. I know it didn't show the work bridge, but it showed the whole job. Do you want to walk through this one, Dave? Do you think this is better, or the work bridge drawing is better?
I think the trestle one is probably better.
Okay.
Maybe just kind of put a frame of reference, kind of like to identify where the Seattle Yacht Club is in NOAA, just so that everybody understands where we're at.
Let's see if my hand can wave. No, my hand can't wave. So who's driving? Is that Alan? Robin? Who's driving?
That'll be Dakota.
Okay. We'll take this
But
slow.
I can help get oriented here.
You got to show the mouse. Can the mouse show that we're on the same page? Let's start with, we can show with, start with NOAA on the northeast side where it says access bridge. That's the NOAA facility. Yep, perfect. That's the NOAA facility. And then on the bottom, what we're talking about on the southeast corner, that is the end of the work bridge, but just, you can see the footprint of what's blank, that new bridge in between those two zones. Up a little bit. Up a tiny bit. Down, no. That's the existing off-ramp, that right there. If you were to move that mouse left and right, there you go. That's the new temporary bridge 1 that we're currently installing right now. That's the big push to get those piles in for this in-water work by April 30th. And then if you go to the far left, once we're done with the in-water work, you see that gap in the trestle. There is 8 pile. No, that's too far, the gap in the middle. The unshaded area. Right there. Those 4 spans, 8 pile will be vibrated in and closed out in the same time frame before April 30th. And then that crane and that crew will go up around the trestle, and on Pier 4 over by Queen City Yacht Club in that corner, you see the unshaded finger pile. That gray finger pile, we'll install those with vibratory pile only starting May 1st during daytime hours, Monday through Friday. And then finger 5 is somewhat done, but not all the way. We'll finish finger 5 on the north side. That gap has been closed currently on the right side, and the gap between Pier 5 and 6 has currently been, the piles are installed, but the superstructure isn't built. so the barges can come in and out to feed the south trestle. And then going further down the line to Pier 8, we're going to try to install as many piles as we can there before we conflict with the existing bridge structure between May 1st and the next impact and water work window. Anything else, Dave?
No, I think that's helpful. And I think it's good to, again, just to remind people that this kind of extended impact period to 8 p.m. at night is just until the end of this month. It's just for a short duration period.
Great. Thank you, Carmelo. Thank you, Dave. I do want to note that we did receive one question in the Q&A from Pete Delani asking if we are providing access to decibel levels during pile driving. I did provide a written response, but just for everybody's awareness in case they do not have the Q&A box open, WSDOT does publish a weekly construction noise monitoring report that covers nighttime noise on the construction corner. If neighbors are interested in learning about noise or vibration levels at a specific location, date or time, whether it's daytime or nighttime, you can send us an email and we'll go ahead and provide you with that report.
Yeah, but if it's repeat, we can't do that until we get more coffee cake. No, certainly. Definitely we can do that.
If there are no more questions, we can go ahead and move on. As a reminder, we will have that formal Q&A session at the very end of the presentation. Thanks, Carmelo. Thanks, Dave.
All right. So back to kind of what we had touched on, and Carmelo touched on this a bit as well. So as you guys have heard, our in-water impact pile driving ends on April 30th, and that includes those extended hours that we were just talking about. But as Carmelo noted, we are going to continue some pile installation past that April 30th date, which would include land-based work over on the Mott Lake side and potentially on the Boyer Hill side area, as well as in-water vibratory pile installation. So those can be expected from May until September of this year before our next in-water season begins. And just a kind of picture here, Carmelo mentioned the iron forest there. This is that location with the 30 piles that have been installed for that temporary bridge alignment. We'll take a look at what that alignment is going to be here towards the end of the slideshow. But this is the current update for those piles. There'll be 34 more of those to be installed. And just a note on impact versus vibratory pile driving. Again, the impact work is from September to April, and it's when you hear the sharp sounds of the hammer hitting steel. Whereas vibratory uses a different type of hammer to essentially shake the pile into the ground and vibrate it down to its foundation. All right. Couple more updates here. So some of the on-land impacts, pile driving, we'll be installing some additional piles on land in the Mont Lake area. Because of these soil conditions, we'll kind of have a mix of that vibratory impact. But again, in-water work will continue past April 30th with vibration only. All right. Moving off of pile driving, some current construction activities. In addition to the pile updates and the work trestle construction, we are working on some select tree and vegetation removal on the Mott Lake area, as well as just some nighttime sweeping along the main SR 520 alignment. Some of the upcoming lane and ramp closures that we've got to look forward to here. We've got our single lane closures on eastbound 520. Apologies for the lighting here. We sometimes have some technical difficulties, likes to turn off on me. We have some single lane closures on eastbound 520 between I-5 and Montlake. That'll be Friday the 25th and Monday the 28th through the 30th from 9 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. each day. That'll be in support of some of those pile driving activities. And then we also have an eastbound 520 off-ramp closure beginning Saturday the 26th and Sunday the 27th. Those will be daily off-ramp closures from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. And again, those are both closures that are going to be supporting some of those pile driving operations because the pile installation is so close to the highway. We want to make sure that folks driving and folks working are going to be safe. Onto some of our tree removals and our tree and vegetation schedule overall. Some of our tree removals and vegetation removals began this past March, so last month. Those highlighted areas that you guys can see on the map here are the areas that we are targeting to sequentially remove across the project. So we'll continue on the east side of our project in the Montlake area through April, and then we'll head west to the Boyer Hillside and Roanoke area starting in May. We'll continue to update you guys as we move into those areas to keep you updated on what those impacts look like. So here's kind of a overview of what that tree removal near Montlake looks like. So the larger trees, some of those that you can see are going to be in conflict with the new Portage Bay bridges, as well as the new off-ramps and the work bridges that we need to be able to construct all of these elements of work. So we're going to be removing these again sequentially in order to be able to construct the project. We go through a pretty extensive process to make sure that we are selecting the right trees and only the necessary trees that have to be removed in order to construct our project and in order to really make sure that these things happen. So we're also looking for opportunities on our project to make sure we're not taking down trees that are not needed to be removed. We do have some upcoming lane closures and ramp closures that we will be using to take down some of the larger trees. Again, to make sure that we have a safety buffer between crews, the trees coming down, and folks driving on the highway to make sure there's just nothing unsafe that can happen. So we'll make sure to continue to keep you guys updated on that. As part of this, we also have some Bill Dawson Trail flagging that we'll be doing to make sure that pedestrians and bikers along the Bill Dawson Trail are not interfacing with some of that tree removal work. This will be intermittent through April and May, just to make sure, again, that if we're taking down trees and vegetation, we don't have something that's an unsafe interface between you guys and the community. So that'll be happening again throughout May, and we will give you guys notice when that starts coming up as far as flagging goes. And the flagging intervals are typically 10 to 15 minutes at a time. We'll have a person staged at one and the other end of the work zone that will hold pedestrians and bikers for a short period of time before letting you guys through to continue about your day. And then we'll talk a little bit more here in a minute about the long-term Bill Dawson Trail. But starting May 12th, and I'm sure you guys have seen some signs popping up, starting May 12th, we'll be closing this trail for up to 5 years in order to construct, again, the new Portage Bay bridges and some of our work areas. So a little bit about the tree removal process near that Bill Dawson Trail. These select trees that I mentioned before are gonna be removed so that we can improve the Bill Dawson Trail, the future Bill Dawson Trail, and the connections. We are gonna be building, in addition to the new Portage Bay Bridge north and south, a regional shared use path similar to ones you see on some of the Lake Washington bridge crossings. So that folks can cross Portage Bay Bridge safely without interfacing with vehicles. One of those is a ramp connection, which is the new bike and pedestrian ramp that you see called out on that map. that connects down to the upgraded Bill Dawson Trail. The trail is going to be widened, and that ramp will be extended to connect folks to multiple different pathways along both the new bridge alignments, Montlake Boulevard, and the upgraded Bill Dawson Trail. And we'll also be just upgrading the area and improving the area with landscaping, lighting, and just general decorative hardscaping. Excuse me. Bit more technical difficulties. Here we go. So here's a couple of photos, some renderings of what we're looking to design and construct for that area. You can see on the bottom left and the top right some of those underbridge improvements for the Bill Dawson Trail, as well as the top left and bottom right, the ramp connection onto the Bill Dawson Trail. Another element of construction that we'll be installing here in the coming month is acoustic fence. This is some additional fence and noise barrier that allows us to help mitigate some of the sound impacts from our upcoming construction activities. As the work bridges get installed, we'll install the acoustic fence in some of these select locations, both on the work bridges, over on the right-hand side of this map by the temporary off-ramp, and then over by the future Roanoke lid. And here's kind of a picture of what that looks like. The black fencing that you see there on that picture is what the acoustic fence is. The smaller green chain link fence is more of a protection security fence. So there's quite a differential there on what the acoustic fence looks like. And again, it helps with noise dampening for construction activities that are really close in proximity to homes. Some updates on ongoing nighttime work. So April and May nighttime construction, we're continuing to do some sweeping along the existing Portage Bay Bridge, just some general sweeping movements to make sure we're maintaining the highway and making sure there's no obstructions for vehicles. We do have some lane closures and on SR 520 and the on-ramps to install some of our environmental controls, including storm drain filters, and to, again, remove trees near the highway. And we'll be continuing to build out the temporary work trestle platforms at night. So we do have some work on the work bridges there going on at night. But as some folks that have been in these meetings before have heard me say, we will not be doing any of our impact pile driving at night. Those work hours extend only to the 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. that we were talking about before. Here's kind of an overview of what the temporary work trestle looks like. So you can see the south side there. It's the future work trestle that'll connect our ability to construct the new Portage Bay bridges. We are working on the platform side both day and night for that work trestle. And then on the north side there, you can see the pile installation, which has been going on during the daytime only. Short-term look ahead for May and June, just to talk about a couple upcoming construction activities. So just to run through real quick on what we're looking at for the next couple of months. In addition to the continued pile driving, we are going to be closing the Bill Dawson Trail for 5 years. We are looking at providing a date and some schedule updates for the Boyer Stairs to start some utility work here in May and maybe into June of this year. We're going to continue that tree and vegetation removal throughout the Roanoke area and the Montlake area. And we're going to be beginning to build that full temporary eastbound SR 520 exit to Montlake Boulevard. And then following in June, most of those activities will continue. And we'll also begin building a temporary northbound I-5 off-ramp on the west side of our project to eastbound SR 520, we'll talk about that more in future monthly construction meetings, but just know that some of that work is coming down the pipeline for us. So to talk about more of the west side work with the utilities and the upcoming work near the Roanoke Park, we have some upcoming traffic effects and some pedestrian effects that will be happening this summer and into this fall. We're scheduling our utility work for a water main and for a 26 kilovolt electrical line to be relocated along the Roanoke area and Boyer Stairs. The water line work is supposed to start in this May, and then our 26 kV relocation is supposed to start this August. We'll have some traffic closures to kind of help facilitate that work that we'll continue to update you guys on in these meetings. And then we'll update you guys once we have an official date for the Boyer Stairs closure. But similar to the Bill Dawson Trail, that stair closure will be for 5 years. And then we'll be reconstructing those stairs at the end of this project. So to get into the long-term Bill Dawson Trail closure, so on Monday, May 12th, we will be closing the Bill Dawson Trail for 5 years. The section that you're looking at on this map is our detours that we have worked through with the City of Seattle and with the WSDOT team to kind of come up with as the best path forward for bikers and walkers to access the different areas around the Montlake area and getting to and from the city. The section in yellow with the X's across it is the section of Bill Dawson that is going to be closed. Those folks will still have access to the full Montlake playfield and the little track that runs around right there on the north side. So again, this map shows all of the signed pedestrian detours and bicycle detours that folks will have available during this closure. To talk a little about the why behind why we are closing the Bill Dawson Trail for 5 years. I know that's kind of a frustrating thing because the Bill Dawson Trail just opened the Montlake Tunnel for the previous project. And now a new contractor, Skanska, is coming in and saying that we're going to be closing it down for 5 years. And that's pretty frustrating to hear when that comes down as far as news. But that 5-year closure is going to allow us to, again, construct a large portion of the elements on our project. So the bulk of this is going to be due to just safety and work access. We're going to be using this area to connect to our work bridge, which allows us to access the foundations and the overall bridge deck of the North and South Portage Bay bridges. And it will also allow us to remove the existing 520 bridge. So part of this trail during the full construction of that 5 years is going to be blocked with embankments to provide some support for both the future bridge structures and for our temporary work trestle. And then we're also going to have a lot of construction traffic via a temporary access road that will be coming through that area. So really, it's a safety factor as well. Here's kind of an overview of what that temporary access route is going to look like. We'll have trucks coming down kind of from the Montlake Boulevard area to access that north trestle. And they'll be bringing material, concrete trucks, and other items onto the work trestle, in addition to equipment, so that we can access the construction area. This will allow us to maintain some safe access to the work trestles, and it eliminates some conflicts with trail users and our heavy equipment operations. And it allows us to safely transport all of our cranes, drill rigs, personal lifts, and really just big equipment that could otherwise cause a potential issue throughout that trail area. So it's a lot of construction elements, it's a lot of information, and it's quite a bit of time, but this also allows us to limit our traffic impacts for the existing 520 bridge. We are looking at limiting our closures of the existing 520 during the Portage Bay Bridge North and South construction by constructing a series of traffic shifts. Oh, there goes the lights again. Thank you, guys. My colleagues in the room are helping with the lighting. So this work trestle access allows us to utilize the existing 520 and some temporary ramps and bridges to shift traffic throughout the next 5 years so that we can limit our overall closures on the existing 520 bridge, which again limits the vehicle congestion there. So I've talked a lot. Here's kind of an overview of what that's looking like from the eyes in the sky portion. We'll touch here in a minute on the Q&A. Got a couple more slides to run through, but you guys have heard me talk a bunch. So we'll open for Q&A here in a moment if anyone has any specific questions on the Bill Dawson Trail, but I just want to give you guys some background and history on that. So. One more thing we'll talk about here is what Carmela had mentioned before, the temporary bridge 1, which is going to be a temporary bridge we're constructing in lieu of the existing off-ramp, which is the existing eastbound 520 exit to Montlake Boulevard. We're doing this to essentially start that series of traffic shifts for the new bridge construction and the existing bridge removal. And we're starting with the pile driving process right now, but we'll be working throughout the summer to get that fully built out. And then eventually we'll conduct 1 to 2 weekend closures so that we can shift traffic from the existing off ramp, which you see in red there on the picture, to the new ramp, which you see on blue. It's not a big shift, but it's enough of a shift that allows us to access the work zone and the new bridge alignments. All right, last topic of this meeting, long-term look ahead for 2025. So just some highlights for 2025. Again, pile driving will be working through April 30th with our impact pile driving, and we'll continue vibratory pile driving in water throughout the year. Our season 2 of in-water impact pile driving will begin September 1st, but we'll have some on-land impact pile driving intermittently this summer. We'll have some traffic control both on city streets, and we'll have some full closures of SR 520 as well as the off-ramps. But we'll give you guys some really good notice as far as emails and this monthly construction meeting and our listservs, so we can give you guys a heads up on when those are coming. And then we also have our utility work that's coming up on the Boyer Avenue hillside. All right, so staying in touch and Q&A, I will pass it over to Alan. But first, thank you everybody that attended. If you guys have questions, please let us know. We'll be here for however long folks have questions for to help answer. And as always, if there's something that we can't answer right off the bat, we'll get back to you guys as quickly as possible because sometimes it takes me a little extra time to do some research if the questions are a little more complicated. So with that, I'll hand it over to you, Alan.
Great. Thank you for walking us through the presentation, Robin. We have about 18 to 19 minutes left in the formal meeting. We do have a couple of questions in the queue. Please keep submitting those as I go over the last couple of slides. We'll go ahead and just give an overview again of how to stay in touch with us, and then we'll dive into answering the questions. Next slide, please. So how to stay informed, we have several different ways for you folks to get in touch with us. We have our 24-hour construction hotline. The phone number is right there, 206-319-4520. We also have several email lists that you could sign up for. We have a weekly email list that goes out, so make sure that you're signed up for that. We'll be sharing information on any potential construction or traffic effects, any news about construction, and also news about our future monthly meetings as well. We will continue having our monthly meetings. We don't have a date yet for our May meeting, but we will be announcing that both via social media and our email list. So make sure that you're subscribed to both. And then we also have our construction corner, which is sr520construction.com. On that website, we have several different frequently asked questions documents available to you, some specific to tree and vegetation removal, more information about the Bill Dawson Trail closure, and several other resources available as well. And then, of course, you can always reach us via email at sr520bridge@washdot.wa.gov. Next slide, please. And thank you everybody for submitting your questions. We have just a handful. We'll probably stick on for a couple more minutes in case folks still have questions. But I'll go ahead and answer the questions that we have in the queue right now. So we have a question from Josh. Can you provide the slides to us? We'll have a PDF of these slides and a recording of the meeting posted on the sr520construction.com website soon in the coming days. Typically, we get those up within a week, so check sometime next week. And if for whatever reason they're not up, feel free to send us an email and we'll make sure to send you a copy. The other question that we have is from Greg. Will the current lid over the Bill Dawson Trail remain intact during the long-term Bill Dawson Trail closure?
Dakota, will you flip to our Bill Dawson slide there? Just want to make sure I think I'm talking about the same spot here. I believe, if I'm speaking correctly here, the current lid there, we don't anticipate any impacts for this project on the current lid. The detours that we're posting actually interface with the current lid, so we won't be impacting that. The only impacts that you'll see will be on the west side there of the Montlake tunnel, and we'll have the closure beginning on the very east side, right where the tunnel starts. So folks will not be able to enter the tunnel per se. Everything else on the west side of the tunnel and the west access point from Montlake onto that yellow section there will be closed for public access.
Great, thank you, Robin. We have two questions from Akash. Is the temporary work trestle on the south side of the Portage Bay Bridge complete?
It's not complete yet. We're nearing completion, but there are sections that we're going to have to construct in future in-water work seasons, partially because they, and maybe I'll show a graphic here in a second, but there are some extensions off of the work trestle. The main portion is almost complete, and we'll have the bulk of it complete by April 30th. But there are some extensions, which we call fingers essentially, because they look like fingers coming off, that allow our cranes to access the foundations of the new bridge. But the locations of those fingers on the south work trestle currently conflict with where the existing 520 bridge sits as it is today. So those ones we can't construct until the existing 520 is removed, which will be a couple years or a couple seasons from now. So we'll update you when that starts coming down the road. But the bulk of our work is complete at this time. There you go. There's the graphic. Thank you, Dakota. So you can kind of see on that north section there where there's a couple green highlights coming down off of it. Those are our fingers. On the south side, we have the bulk in green complete, and we expect to complete the bulk of it by April 30th. But those sections there in white that kind of extend off of it, those fingers, we're going to have to construct a lot of that after we remove the existing 520.
Just to double down on that one, Robin, for that question, the south work bridge next to the play field, complete question mark. So like Robin said, the main line is just about to wrap up right now. we're installing the temporary Bridge 1 piling for that widening of that new off-ramp. That's what's going to be driving through the April 30th timeline. And then after the 30th, come May 1st, we still have some upland piles to install. Monday through Friday for the normal work hours. And I believe for the temporary Bridge 1, there's 9 piles on the upland side. And for the trestle, there is another 6 to 8 piles more, or sorry, 4 bents. So 4 more bents worth of pile driving to finish that south area next to the play field for that specific question. And like Robin said, absolutely. The trestle fingers on the south main line, the ones that she just outlined, won't be done until or installed until 2028. But I wanted to be pinpointing clear about that south piece by the play field.
Yeah, and that goes to Akash, your second question there. When will the impact piling be done for the new off-ramp? That will extend to Carmelo's point into the in-water work will be complete by April 30th, but the on-land work will extend into May and June, I anticipate, for the piling installation on that ramp. Or maybe you can speak a little more on that schedule aspect of it, Carmelo, for Temp Bridge 1, but yeah, that will continue outside of April 30th.
Do you want me to go into further detail? I can talk schedule for the next 6 years.
No, you're fine.
Okay.
We'll bring you back to future meetings, don't you worry. This isn't the last we'll see of you on this meeting. Folks get tired of hearing my spiel and my bad jokes. I was trying to come up with one here earlier and I couldn't think of one, so I was thinking about saying something about how the nice April showers were gonna bring May flowers, but then it's not really raining, so that doesn't apply.
Just wait
Although
till next week, Robin.
I know
Yeah.
it'll come back.
The Skanska show is on hold right now, Robin, so you can hold those.
I've got notes. I'm waiting. I'm in line for auditions.
So we have about 10 minutes left in the formal meeting. We do not have any questions in the queue. I'm going to give it one more minute to let folks type out any questions that they may have. As a reminder, we're always available via the project inbox and our construction hotline if anything comes up afterwards. I'm not seeing anything come through. I'll just start with my closing remarks then, and then if any questions do come up, I'll go ahead and read those out. But that does bring us to the end of our queue. As a reminder, we'll post today's meeting materials on both the project website and the construction corner. On the construction corner, if you scroll all the way to the bottom to the other section, you'll see a section for public meetings. It's sandwiched right in between the other heading and then also our FAQs at the very bottom, where you can learn more about tree and vegetation removal and also the Bill Dawson Trail closure. We will be announcing our May construction meeting over the course of the next couple of weeks. So make sure that you are signed up for our email updates. But if there are no other questions, I think we can go ahead and wrap up a little bit early today. Thank you all for attending today's meeting. You'll be receiving updates from me in the future, and we look forward to being in contact with you all soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.